Hello and welcome back to Conquering My Collection and I don't want to say it's a series because I don't want to nail myself down, but I am 7 movies into this box set and I'm really motivated to finish it. So I would like to talk about all of these films, and we'll begin with Crime and Punishment from 1980 something, I've forgotten already, but we're going to go through this box set, the Artificial Eye box set, the Aki Kaurismäki set. So this is a Finnish filmmaker, probably the most famous director in Finland, and this is a phenomenal box set from Artificial Eye that collects together, including 9 short films, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 movies. And with the 9 short films, that would be, quick maths, 26 films. So let's talk about all of them. Let me just kind of give you my introduction to Aki Kaurismäki before we get into the 1983 film, Crime and Punishment, which I'll be reviewing in this video. And let's see if we can just put this in the background. Perfect. So, my first experience with Aki Kaurismäki was 5 years ago, I believe, 6 years ago, when I watched his 1988 film, Ariel, where it was in the book 1,000 Movies You Must See Before You Die. It was like 80 minutes, so I just popped it on because it was quick, and I really liked it, but I didn't think it was like you must see before you die. I was really struck by the tone of the humor, the very deadpan humor that he clearly, now I'm a few films into his filmography, is a staple of his, his filmic style and his writing style, so that's one thing. But there's a tone that I find interesting with his films, and I want to get away from kind of talking about his films as a collective before we even get started here. But it made me want to see more when I first saw that film Ariel, but I never really got around to it, So it was one of those things where it never kind of presented itself. And then a few months ago, I was and I talked about this in a previous episode when I reviewed Night on Earth, where I was having a really shitty time, and I just, for some reason, looked at my collection. I was like, I want to watch a film to distract myself from how shit I'm feeling, but I want something that takes place at night. It's just like, I can just chill out to, there's not much plot, and it's like a night movie, is an older movie, and there it was, like Night on Earth, film about 5 different taxi drivers around the world on the same night, picking up strange customers. And the final segment was in Helsinki, and starred 2 of the actors who appear in Aki Kaurismäki's films a lot. And then I since found out that Jim Jarmusch, who directed Night on Earth, appeared in one of Aki Kaurismäki's films from the 1980s. So there's a connection there, and obviously kind of a love letter to Kaurismäki's films. And I thought, man, I'd like to go back to those, and I bought the box set years ago because it was I got it for a really good price in FOP in Covent Garden. The Aki Kaurismäki collection. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name, but it's a Finnish director. So this actually goes from 1983 all the way up to 2017, and there's 2 big digipacks in there. There's a 100-page booklet. Wonderful set, really, really nice. And again, I love these director collections where you can just like see a span of a director's career and lots of different varied films. Well, I'm assuming varied films. If he made films, from 1983 up to 2017, I'm sure there's going to be some progression there or some differences. Maybe not. Maybe it's just one note all the way. I don't know. But that's why I buy these things, to find out. And knowing that I really like his films just gets me amped up to dive into that set at some point. And £35 for 26 movies, it's a pretty damn good deal as far as I'm concerned. And I thought it was great value for money with all those movies, and just waiting for the right time. And that's the thing I love about my collection, man. It's always there in the right time, and this felt like the right time, and I've been loving going through these films. So I started my journey at the beginning, and my main criticism of there's only one. The one criticism I have with that box set, I'll leave it in for free, is that it's not chronological. It's kind of themed throughout all the discs. And I just give them chronological, I like to see the progression, So I've been kind of like going, okay, not that one next. And, there's 2 films in every disc so far. And it's like, okay, not that one. I got to go to this disc to get the next one. That one comes, 5 films down the line. And so that was frustrating. So Crime and Punishment, his first film, 1983. Oh, one more thing. So I was thinking, like, do I do like a movie marathon of this, make it a big video, or a Conquering My Collection special where it's like one video, 17 reviews, 3 hours long or whatever. And I thought, well, let's just do single reviews, and to just work my way through them as I get through them. So that's what we're going to do. It's just me talking about them, giving my thoughts, and some of them aren't really, worth a lot of thoughts, which sounds more like an insult than it really is. So we'll get into it. So Crime and Punishment, 1983, his first movie, and it's about this guy, and it's based on the Dostoevsky novel, I believe, which I have no knowledge of whatsoever. I did look it up on Wikipedia afterwards to see how it contrasted with the plot of this film. Obviously set in Helsinki, Finland, and we follow this man who works in a slaughterhouse. He's doing a shift at the beginning of the day, and then off he goes to this fairly fancy apartment block in Helsinki. Knocks on the door. This man in a nice shirt opens. Looks like a businessman or someone important, and he's like, "I've got a delivery for you." He's like, "Okay, well, you need to sign for it." So he follows him into the apartment, pulls out a gun, and shoots him. Then he sits at his desk and starts just looking through his desk, and then a woman comes in, and she's a caterer who's putting on a party for this man who's just been murdered. And this woman walks in and she sees two men in this apartment. One is lying dead on the floor with a gunshot wound. The other one sat there at the desk with a gun. Now, 99% of people would turn around and run, man or woman, but she stays. And it's like, what the fuck's going on there? And this is enough intrigue to make you think, where is this film going? And she's just stood there frozen, and he's just like, well, I just killed him, and, you're going to call the police, and it's this weird kind of, what is going on here, and he's a very strange individual. Like, the actor has this kind of bit of a receding hairline and a little bit peculiar looking, not too much, and a very strange demeanor about him. And anyway, so he leaves, and she's called the police. The police turn up, and this is my first inkling that, like, it's been there from the beginning. Aki Kaurismäki's sense of humor. The two detectives are kind of talking about the body and stuff and whatever, and one of them's like, like, I forget the exact kind of the wording of it, and obviously being translated from Finnish doesn't help, but it's something about like, what do they pay you for again? He's like, couldn't say, it's something like that, where it's just this nice little bit of like humor there, and I was like, okay, we're gonna have a little bit of fun here. and they're trying to find the person who killed him, and they get very close to the guy pretty early on because the woman she was a witness. But once she's in the room with him, the guy who she very clearly saw there with the gun after the murder, and then she goes back on it. And now I'm like, what is going on here? And now this guy, the murderer, is kind of following her, and she's meeting him, and she's kind of, there's this weird relationship that forms. And it's like, she keeps him at arm's length, but like, she's intrigued by him. What the hell's going on here? It's just such and it really caught my attention and stuff, and I was just wondering, what's the end game here? Where's this really going? And does he want to get caught? Does he not? He's quite a mysterious guy. I mean, we see him in his kind of private life and the little idiosyncratic things that he's doing, and he's got his gun. He hides it behind a pillow, and like, why is he doing that? You don't get a lot of answers and things. But I was really, I became much more involved with it the longer it went on. There was another man who's kind of has his eyes set on the woman who works with her. And there's a great sequence in a hotel room where he kind of gives her an ultimatum. And there's this beautiful shot of where she's there. And we see her face looking at him. And behind her is the window and the night behind. And there's rain trickling down. It's just a beautiful shot. It's just been stuck in my head for over a month now. I don't know what, something with that shot that's just, and her in particular. She's a beautiful woman, but there's just something very captivating about her face, like especially like the things that she's doing, and it's almost like a blank expression. And I don't know if it's like bad acting, but I'm just like trying to figure out what's going on behind those eyes. Like, what does she think of this guy really, And the police detective, he's really trying to get these. He's got this guy with his nuts against the wall, but like he can't deliver on the final button. This is a frustrating thing for this detective because he knows he's got this guy, but he doesn't quite, And I loved where it was going, and the conclusion was not hugely surprising, but done in a different way than I would have expected. And I really liked the film. I thought it was a very, very good film. It's tricky when it's a language you don't know, but I feel like they were good performances. But I just liked how it felt different, and it was a good little crime. I don't say mystery, but it's a good crime drama with a little bit of humor peppered in there. Some funny stuff, but it never overrode the more serious side of the story. And it just kept me guessing. And it was mainly this relationship between these two characters, where it's just like, is she drawn to the badness in him? Like, what is the, and we don't really get a lot of answers on that, but I didn't mind that either. I just thought it was an entertaining little story, really. And I find that most big directors, most directors who have prolific careers, even, their first films are really interesting, and there's usually like a little peppering of something that they do a lot. In this case, a little bit of that kind of dark humor from Kaurismäki, but there's usually just like a good little story. I recently watched Ingmar Bergman's first film, and it was a good little story. It wasn't amazing. It was a good little story. I'm trying to think of other examples. Kurosawa, perhaps for me the greatest filmmaker of all. His first film, Senshiro Sugatsu Part 1, it's a good little film. It's just one of those things. So I really like Crime and Punishment. From the title and then being adapted from a Russian novel, I was a bit skeptical. And I was like almost wanted to skip it in a way, not like skip it entirely, but like move to some of the other ones I was more intrigued by in terms of what they were about from what I'd seen and heard. But I really enjoyed this one. So Crime and Punishment, it got a thumbs up from me, and to kind of spoil things for you a little bit, but well maybe not. Maybe I can leave that. I don't know, because I don't want to like give away what I thought of and think of his later films, but I guess we'll leave that. But for me, this was like a 4 out of 5 kind of film. I guess I will say that as we go on, for me, it just feels like he's a 4 out of 5 kind of director for me, where it's just like really, really good films consistently, solidly. And I'm just waiting for that one to crack above. And I'm excited about that and almost a bit nervous that it doesn't happen. But even if it doesn't, I just think, if a filmmaker makes really good films I really enjoy, that's great. They don't all have to be masterpieces or anything. So that was my thoughts on Crime and Punishment. I hope you'll join me for the next 16 reviews, or 25 if I decide to do separate videos on the short films. But I know what I'm like. I start off with these grand plans and doing this and doing that, and it never really comes to fruition. So I don't want to promise anything, but I have the best intentions of going through all these films and talking about them, even if I don't have too much to say. And again, I didn't really mention the characters' names or the actors' names, so I don't know how to pronounce them, and so I'll play it by ear in terms of how much I can kind of try to pronounce these things. But that was Crime and Punishment. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this film or any of Aki Kaurismäki's films down below in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.